Hello there and welcome to the Fast Forward Show. Today I'm joined by Claudia Banks, who heads up the UK sales for SecurityHQ. SecurityHQ is a leading managed security solutions provider, and they deliver superior-led engineering solutions around the globe. And today, Claudia is here to tell us why bigger isn't necessarily better when it comes to achieving your career goals. Welcome, Claudia.
Hello, thanks very much for having me today. Looking forward to talking to you.
Fantastic to have you as our guest, Claudia. I'm really excited to share your story. So, Claudia, you were working for world-renowned company Gartner. You'd achieved winner circle status. You were doing very well. And we're in the middle of a pandemic, and you made a decision to join a much smaller company in comparison, SecurityHQ. Tell us what made you do this?
I'm really delighted with my decision, actually. You know, I loved working at Gartner. They're a brilliant company. I was surrounded by some amazing people there, very intelligent, forward-thinking people, and I loved it. Especially my team that I work with. You know, they taught me a lot. But also, you know, when they do teach you a lot, you kind of recognize that there's a ceiling a little bit at a bigger firm. And I turned 30 this year. And for me, it was, I really started to think about kind of what are my next steps? What do I want to do? And I know that you kind of reached out to me, Louisa, and we kind of were talking about, you know, what does that career path look for? And if I was being honest, when we first talked, I didn't really think I would leave Gartner for a while. So I was quite comfortable there. You know, I enjoyed working with my team. I liked it was interesting what I was selling. But there was such a good fit in terms of what I was looking for in the future and kind of what you said about, you know, now SecurityHQ, that it seemed like a very good time to do it. And, you know, I think if anything you can learn from the pandemic, as cringe as it is, that you do have to make a jump sometimes. And that is kind of where I felt that I needed to do. And I wanted to be in a really creative firm that's kind of quite diverse, that's got a really, really good culture, that also has the ability to grow with the business. And that's exactly kind of what I chose and loved about SecurityHQ, and you know, I'm really enjoying so far.
Excellent. So some people in your position might have thought, you know, especially working for someone like Gartner, you know, I can't go to anyone smaller, you know, because they're not going to be advanced as this. They're not going to be as professional. They don't have the brand name. You know, how am I going to be successful in someone in comparison to somebody like Gartner? What would be your response to this?
Yeah, there's definitely there is that worry. Of course there is, because when you work for, you know, such an established name as Gartner, you know, they bring up some of the best salespeople in the world. You know, some people on my team were just, you know, breathtaking how good they were. And you do have quite a particular culture at somewhere like Gartner as well, which is not a bad thing. It's brilliant, but it just means that in terms of if you want to do anything differently, it's quite hard because it's very process led. And I think one of the things to kind of go back to your question there is that, yes, there is the scariness in terms of, am I going to be able to do the same thing in a smaller firm? But I would actually kind of flip it and say, you know, you could probably do more in a smaller firm because there's more opportunity. You've got to kind of get to that kind of size is obviously the aim for everyone. And, you know, what I liked about kind of working with SecurityHQ is that I'm working with a huge amount of people in the team all the time. So constantly on a day-to-day basis, I'm talking to my CEO or CTO or CMO, but also talking to all the service delivery managers who are brilliant as well. And when you work in a bigger firm, you don't necessarily get the exposure to that. And although I was very lucky at Gartner that, you know, we were selling to executives, so I was, you know, being able to have that conversation. But when you think about going from a bigger firm to a smaller firm, you're not speaking to the big people in the big firms there, are you? And so that's something that I wanted to do. And I wanted to kind of grow and learn from a company that was a bit smaller, that has the aspiration to go as big as they can. You know, SecurityHQ is so exciting. They grow 43% last year to new business, which in a very commoditized market is quite unheard of. Yeah. I mean, that was from a sales perspective as well. It's always something that you want to hear. So that was a big reason kind of why I felt comfortable moving, with a bit of a push from you as well, Louisa. You made me feel that it was the right move for me, and I definitely feel like it has been.
Brilliant. So what about things like technology? You know, how confident are you in the technology at Security HQ and the advancements in that?
Yeah, definitely. It's a great question. So one of the differentiators about working with a smaller firm as well is that they need to be top of their game, essentially. So they have to work with the best in class. Not everyone does, but we very much look at kind of what is the best technology out there and what do our clients need. One of the big problems that I foresee working with bigger firms is that they're very process-led, and it's very difficult to change anything. And once something's embedded into an organization, it's difficult to remove it. Whereas when you're working with a smaller firm, they're like SecurityHQ, they're constantly updating, they're changing, and that is exciting. It does mean a hell of a lot of learning, which can be difficult, but it means that we're providing the most important thing, which is making sure our clients have the best. And that's the other part of kind of which kind of teams up with the best technology, is that, you know, we make sure that our clients have tailored different plans. No one in the company has the same plan, and that means that all their technology is different. So we are constantly adapting. So you have to think about how good our teams are to be able to be that flexible. It's definitely something I'm still learning, but you know, we constantly are having to look at them and say, okay, well, what's the individual's challenge? And then what's the business's challenge? And then what are you working with right now? And we'll easily say to them, I think you should swap this technology out and use this. Or for example, say you've got this, let's utilize it. Because that's a big challenge in the cybersecurity world at the moment, that, you know, they are unable to manage technology that they've bought to the best they can, because it's constantly evolving. There's a new attack every day, there's a new breach, and that's difficult for some of these smaller IT teams. And SecurityHQ does a really great job of doing that. And it's because they constantly look at kind of what is the best in class in terms of their technology.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And there has been some new technology, quite a lot of new technology brought in place even since you've been there, I think.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's an interesting point. So, you know, when you work in a bigger firm as well, like Gartner, Gartner has obviously the best, you know, they provided us with the best stuff to be able to kind of work. They're a data-driven company as well. So, you know, as a salesperson, you're heavily metricked for that, which is great. What's difficult, I would imagine, for a bigger firm like that is hearing the front line, like me, be able to tell the chief product officer, for example, that you're missing a trick with your clients because they don't have something like a mobile app. Now, what SecurityHQ have done very well is they have identified that managed security service firms at the moment have a mobile app. Now, what that means is that if you have a breach or you have a problem or there's an incident, for example, you have got to be by your laptop. But we're living in a pandemic, Lisa, so that's pretty wild to me to think that we don't have, or a lot of firms don't have the opportunity that if you need to go to Tesco's or, I don't know, a doctor's appointment, that you can't be able to connect to something in order to see, you know, what's going to happen if there is a problem, and can I be there and be able to kind of stop that incident. So for me, it was interesting going to a smaller firm thinking, wow, you've actually one of the first people to do this in the market, and how is the market going to respond? And it's been very, very successful so far. Like, our clients are loving it, and that's interesting to see kind of that take as well, because you don't really think about that sometimes in terms of, you know, there are the flip sides for working with a smaller company, because you can hear what your clients need and you can act on it quickly.
Thank you so much for sharing those insights. It's great to see how well you're doing, and I look forward to hearing how it all goes in the future.